Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today, Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with Jesse LeBeau. So the first question I asked Jesse was, how does a young man from Alaska who had to take a boat to school and to stores become a youth speaker who travels around the country inspiring and motivating others?
Huge shout out to David Meltzer, our mentor and coach, for suggesting Jesse. That's 2 for 2, Jeff Fenster and Jesse, both amazing episodes. My favorite thing about Jesse is that his primary focus is helping kids believe in themselves. His attitude about what it takes to win and basically failing forward along the way. I think he calls it stumbling forward. I was just giving a speech to a bunch of athletes recently and shaking their hands after the speech saying, they were saying, thank you so much. I got some emails and DMs. I think that inspiring kids and capturing young hearts and young minds is so important. So Jesse is going to be really good for the world, and we want to support him in any way we can. So thank you.
And his unbelievable level of self-belief.
Right.
He has such a high level of self-belief. He's been told no so many times.
Right.
And it didn't let him, it didn't stop him.
He could have
just
been
kept
told
going.
that you're from Alaska,
Right.
you're too short,
Right.
all that stuff.
Yeah, this was an amazing episode. He's got a huge heart, and that's something that we resonate with. So we hope you will enjoy.
Talk soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hyperconscious Podcast is proudly sponsored by our friend and mentor, David Meltzer of the Playbook Podcast. He was kind enough to join us on episode 144 and 135.
Folks, it has become Kevin and I's mission in life to help you realize that the life of your dreams is right on the other side of you becoming the greatest version of yourself. Let us help you do that.
I rarely do these things twice in such a short amount of time, but you guys impress me. I believe in people that provide value and of our service. You two guys are on your way to huge fulfillment, purpose, and profitability, and I look forward to helping you both.
We appreciate that more than you know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today's guest is an actor, an author, and a youth speaker. We are sitting down with the one and only Alaska's own Jesse LeBeau. How are you doing, my friend?
What's up, gentlemen? Gosh, you're bringing the energy. I feel like I need to jump up and down and do some jumping jacks here and get my energy up. Gosh, I gotta keep up with that.
Look, I might not be a good podcaster, but I will bring that energy. That's the one thing I will do.
I think that's half the battle, right?
Right,
that
man.
Showing up like we were saying.
Absolutely. So just to get this rolling so people can learn about you, how do you go from a kid living on an island in Alaska where you have to take a boat to school, no grocery stores in your town, to traveling around the country inspiring children and teens through speaking and books?
Whew. Okay, well, here we go. Let's just how do we do that, huh? Well, honestly, it's one of those things that happen in stages. So growing up, you nailed it. I grew up right on a little island called Pennock. And on Pennock, there's no roads, there's no stores, there's no cars. It's just our house surrounded by the woods filled with wild animals. So every day, my family, just to get to school or for my parents to get to work, had to take this little boat across the town. It wasn't a long boat ride. It was about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how fast we were going. And that was our little trip to the big city. And the big city is what we called it, but it was really one road going left, one road going right, 4 stoplights, 15 miles of road, and then a fence on either end. So you were trapped there. There was nothing to do. It was dark all the time. I'd go to school, it'd be dark. I'd get out of school, it'd be dark. And to make it even more fun of a place to live, it rained 13 feet a year.
My goodness.
So yeah, Seattle barely rains compared to that. 2 out of every 3 days. It would rain and blow months on end. So being in a small community like that with not a lot to do and the factors of the geography and the environment, there was a lot of problems with drugs, with alcohol, with depression, with suicide. And a lot of the things in Alaska are really extreme. And thankfully for me, I had a passion early on. I looked up to my brother, and my brother was the big basketball star on the high school team. So I said, you know what? I want to be just like my brother. I want to go and hit those 3-pointers and have, the big crowd cheering for me. And I just became the ultimate gym rat. The only problem was that I was tiny. I was smaller than all the kids. All the girls were taller than me. And my whole life, I was just this underdog. I was overlooked. I was underestimated. People would tell me I wasn't good enough, wasn't fast enough, wasn't big enough, wasn't strong enough. And I decided, you know what? There's 2 things that I can do. I can get bitter, or I can get better. And the only thing I can really control is my attitude and how I'm going to respond. This is the deck that I was dealt, and I can either blame other people, make excuses, give up without trying so people don't judge me, or I can go for it and throw away all those excuses. So I basically became the Alaska version of the Pistol Pete story. Have you guys ever seen the Pete Maravich story, The Pistol?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So that was my favorite movie. And instead of walking on train tracks and dribbling, I was walking through the snow dribbling and going up and down the ramps and on the floats and got my 10,000 hours in. And the only reason I was ever able to have any success in sports was just because I mastered my attitude as best as I could and the mental part of the game. And I just spent more time than anyone else with the basketball in my hand and in the gym. Friday night would come around. People would be out doing what people do on Friday nights. And I'd be sneaking into the Lutheran church gym with my little boom box and practicing until 2-3 in the morning. And that's and I loved it. It wasn't work. It was fun. I loved imagining myself hitting game-winning shots, visualizing myself, seeing myself there. And I loved listening to music, and it was my escapism, and it's what set me up to go on. And from there, I went on and had a good high school career and went on to play college in San Diego. And after that, I ended up trapped out on a little boat after college. I got to live that college dream and get the scholarship and play and have some honors, some all conferences and that kind of stuff. But then I was on a boat out in the middle of Alaska waters, deadliest catch style, no cell phone service, no Wi-Fi, no communication with the outside world. And this captain hated me. He would yell, he would cuss, he would scream at me. And I was a horrible fisherman. That was part of the reason why he didn't like me. I would have been in the gym my whole life. I didn't know the knots. I got seasick. I wanted to shower 3 or 4 times a day. And and here I am trapped on this boat, and I'm getting, stingy jellyfish in my face all day. I'm messing up the net, and if you aren't paying attention at any moment, you or one of your buddies that's working with you can be swept overboard and die. So it's like really high stakes. It's really grueling physical labor. And the hardest part of it was the mental side, was the mental toughness. And that's the best thing I took away from working on a boat like that, was like, man, if I could get through this, I could get through anything. And it did help me in so many ways, even in sports. Afterwards, going back for my senior year, because I did fishing in the summertime through college and then after. And I remember I went back and had to do preseason conditioning, and I wasn't in good cardio shape because I'd been on a boat for 3 months. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh, we're going to run a mile. So I just have to run for 5 minutes and then do some other training after that for like an hour, and it's going to hurt. It's going to suck. But afterwards I get to go home and be in my own bed.
Right.
and I get to call whoever I want. I get to see my girlfriend. I get to make a protein shake or drink a milkshake. Like, this is easy. I can go through any type of pain for an hour. I was just on a boat being miserable for 60, 70 days, not knowing, how I was going to get through it. So I literally went and just absolutely destroyed everyone who'd been training all summer, because it was all in my head. It was literally the game between my ears. So that was a huge learning lesson, in taking those times that aren't always fun and ideal and suck at the time that you're doing it. But the lessons I learned from that have benefited me my whole life, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. And that's where the real growth and the part where you have that breakthrough happens. It happens during the struggle. And so that was just one example of that in my life. So I graduate, I do the same thing. I'm on that boat, and I decide, you know what? I'm going to go try to be in these basketball commercials. I've heard all these amazing things. about my buddies who've made some money doing it, and they're starring with these big celebrities and pro athletes. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go for it, and I'm going to take action. I got no clue, but I'm going to stumble forward and figure it out. And that's been another common thread throughout my life. And so I went out there. I moved in with a guy named Tommy Driffel. I lived on a blow-up air mattress in his kitchen in low-income housing in Van Nuys, California. I was the minority for the first time in my life. All the signs were in Spanish. And I realized real quick, I need to figure out to do something that makes me stand out at these auditions. So I was like, oh, I can't dunk. All these guys are doing these crazy dunks. They're jumping over 2 or 3 guys. They got 50-inch verticals. That's never going to happen. I could barely touch the net. So I decide, you know what, I'm going to find out how to do tricks, and that'll make me stand out. So I found out who was the best guy in LA. He was a guy by the name of Johnny Fife. And I found out where he was going to be. I showed up and I asked him, like, hey man, I would love to learn how to do what you do. And he told me years later, like, hey, I helped you because you were so nice and you asked so politely. It just seemed like it would be kind of a shame to turn you down. And so he showed me how to do some of the tricks. And then I just started practicing, and I put in my 10,000 hours again. Same thing. Friday night, I remember everyone out being at the club in Hollywood, LA, and I was at this outdoor park in a real seedy neighborhood. I shouldn't have been there. And I was trying to bounce the ball and catch it behind my neck. And do push-ups, and I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get it over and over and over again. And I was kicking the ball and not having a good attitude. And but eventually, I got it one time, and that one time I was like, okay, if I keep doing this, I'm going to learn how to do all these tricks. And from there, I started showing up to these auditions, and they would look at me and they'd be like, are you at the right audition? I don't think this is for a basketball commercial. And I'd go, oh, really? Well, I'm here. Why don't I try? And then I'd go into the tricks. And within the first 6 months, I'd booked a kind of the dream commercial that I got to star in for Kobe Bryant. And I was like, oh, this is easy. Like this Hollywood thing's a piece of cake. And I had no clue. And had a lot of ups and downs, but it led for me to do more commercials. And I got to do a pretty cool one with Heidi Klum where she feeds me cheeseburgers for a whole day. And is like seducing me via Carl's Jr. burger.
Tough day of work, Jesse, huh? Tough day of work.
Yeah. So that was a real fun day on the job. And I can't believe they paid me for it. I would have paid them to have that experience.
Right. Straight up.
One thing led to another, and pretty soon I'm doing street ball with the N1 mixtape guys and hanging out with the professor and all those guys. And then I'm traveling around the world playing basketball with Allen Iverson, my idol and my hero, the guy I looked up to. And what happened was I realized basketball was just a tool for me to be able to have impact on other people, particularly young people. And it happened when people would come up to us after these games. They come up to Allen Iverson, they come up to me, and they'd be so excited because of the tricks we did and the show that we put on. And I went back to my hometown and did another one of these games, and the same thing happened. And I was completely just moved by the fact that I knew some of these kids' parents, their older brothers, their older sisters. And I had a light bulb moment of, you know what, I want to use basketball in my story to inspire and help other people who don't have the luxuries of some of the things that I was blessed to have. Good parents, good education, life experiences, people that believed in me. And I wrote down on the flight home in my notes in my iPhone, I want to write a book. I want to become a top speaker. I want to have a TV show. I want to impact all these people. And for the course of about the last 4 or 5 years, I've worked to build that. Again, putting in those 10,000 hours. So finding who are the top speakers in my industry, annoying them until they agree to meet with me, making them fall in love with my passion and giving them as much charisma as I possibly can. Learning how to become a speaker, going through training, basically making a speaking tour out of nothing, creating a fake email, pretending to be my publicist. I learned this little move from Daniel Tosh from the show Tosh Point oh. I don't know if you guys know that show.
Yes.
Yep.
Loved it at the time. It was very popular. And I heard him in an interview say, when I first started trying to be a comedian, I printed up these flyers and they said, Arsenio Hall says the best comedic act I've ever seen. And he would send him out to people, and he's like, I just hope they never called me out on that, because he never actually said that. And I thought it was the funniest thing. I laughed so hard. So I created an email account. I still use it to this day. It's a gal named Megan Powers, and she's hot. She is good looking.
Yeah.
Her avatar is smoking, and I'll tell you what, she will flirt to close a deal. And I remember one time I was doing some business, and I jumped on a call with Usain Bolt's manager, Jamaican guy. And, Jamaican guys love the ladies. I'll stereotype. It's true. I've been around enough of them to know. And we got on the call, and he goes, Jesse, is Megan going to be on this call? And I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. She's not going to be able to make it. It's just me today. And he goes, oh man, I was really looking forward to hearing her voice. I really wanted to see what her voice sounded like. And so with Megan Powers, I basically emailed all the big media in Alaska and said, there's this guy, he's amazing. He's a speaker for youth. He's doing this big tour. He's going to all the schools. He's got all these sponsors. You should have him on your show. He does basketball tricks. So I went it got me on all the shows, got me on all the networks. And I knew if I could get my foot in the door, I could give them what they wanted. I could give them a good segment. I could impact kids by getting in the schools. I just needed to figure out how to get my foot in the door. So I flew up there. I went on the media. I said, I'm doing a tour. It's amazing. I'm going to all these schools. I got all these sponsors. Meanwhile, did not have one school, did not have one sponsor. But while I was there, at this time, I did have my book. So it was the middle of winter. I borrowed my uncle's little yellow Pinto, and I drove around, and I remember it vividly because he didn't have a heater in this thing. So I was freezing. It was freezing temperatures. I went to every middle school and high school in the town. I didn't have time to get food. I just went one to one. And I walked in, and I said, hey, and I looked at my little cheat sheet. I was like, is Principal Johnson here? And they're like, yeah, he's the principal here. Of course he's here. Who are you? And I'm like, I'm the guy with this book. And I flew all the way out from California to meet with him. And I'd love it if I could just get him, 5 to 10 minutes with him real quick. And they'd look at the book. They'd look at me. They see the little quote from Allen Iverson. And, half of them let me in. Some of them looked at me crazy, said they weren't available. But I got in enough doors. And then I went and flew to Fairbanks, like an hour or so north, and did the same thing there. Drove around to every school, didn't stop for food. And through that, I put together like a 25 school tour. I ended up getting schools calling me and paying some money because they saw it on the news segment. And then I even got a couple sponsors to put a little money to go towards making it happen and covering costs and all those things. And that initial tour that basically was just made out of nothing, set up the whole foundation for everything I'm doing today. It got me testimonials. It got me video footage of me speaking. It got me people writing reviews. And it also, most importantly, taught me how to be a speaker, because there's nothing that's going to teach you better than getting in front of 850, 1,200, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders and having to perform, on cue. And if you mess up, you got to keep going. That's the best kind of learning experience. And my first one, it was rough. It was rough, but there was several kids that came up, but one that I'll never forget. She came up, she came out as a lesbian to me, and she opened up about being abused by her stepfather in her house, and we were able to get her help with both of those things. And so even when you're not at your best and you're learning, you still, if your heart's in the right place and you're authentic enough and people can see you being vulnerable with your struggles, you can really have an impact and help people. And so that was such an amazing experience, and that's kind of led me to, in the last 4 years, to really grow the speaking business and the TV show stuff and the podcast things and expand the platform. So the common theme really is just taking action, believing in yourself and figuring it out, and just being relentless when it comes to following that passion and that desire and that dream in your heart. So I feel like I've been talking. I'm gonna fall back and let you ask.
That was
absolute
fire, man. That was absolute fire, dude. You just said everything that we preach.
Right.
Like it really is mostly about the action. The results don't matter as much. Like, you will take more from the results than you would if you didn't take the action. So that is absolute fire. So I know Alan and I have 1,000 questions.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Good.
writing stuff down feverishly. So when you were calling these schools, when you were Megan Powers, did anybody
Sounds
tell
super
you?
hot, by the way.
Right. How many people? I guess how many people told you were crazy and that what you were doing was reckless? Because Alan and I have been told by many people that we're crazy for doing what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And what's your plan B and how do you make money and all that stuff? How did you seem to have an unbelievable level of belief in yourself. Who was around you at the time that was like really helping you do these things and keeping that belief going?
Yeah. I always have had great supportive parents, and even my mom was the one who urged me, like, hey, I had a couple other opportunities of things I could have done that would have been safer and more consistent money than come to LA and trying to be an actor. There was a job I could have got $80K a year right out of college doing carpet salesman in Orange County, and then I was going to go play ball overseas. But again, it would have been a grind. I would have been the only American on my team, and I just had kind of a something about coming out here got me excited. So I think as far as the belief in yourself, it's what you have to have, and I think that's the biggest thing people struggle with today, especially young people, is this self-esteem thing. We're so afraid of what other people are going to think about us. We're so afraid that we're going to get judged and people are going to think this or that or the other thing. And so for me, I've been able to be around a lot of really successful people, whether it's celebrity folks that are made it in acting or athletes. And that's a common thing I really see with them is they care less what other people think about them than the average person. Because no matter what you do, you can be, I face it, and I'll give an example of someone much bigger and more to bring to the table, like a Tony Robbins guy. Tony Robbins, his only thing, if you believe in the genuineness of his heart, is he wants to help people. But no matter what you do, you could be rescuing lost puppies, helping orphans, whatever it is. It could be the most noble mother. If Mother Teresa was around today, there would be 50% of the people that would attack her and say that she's a bad person and she's doing it for publicity and for clout and whatever. You know what I mean? That's just the world we live in. And so you have to ultimately decide what is going to make you happy and what is going to make you fulfilled. And yeah, that's been definitely a commonality in people I've seen that have been successful across the board and what I've taken away. And I remember one principle in particular, because I'm pretty feisty and hard headed and not afraid to give it right back. So I went in and I talked to this principal. He was in Fairbanks, I believe. And he told me like, oh, we just don't have time. We don't have time with the scheduling, with testing. And so I'm like, in the whole school year, you don't have 45 minutes to have a speaker. He's like, no, we just don't have it. The testing and all these things. And I go, so if Barack Obama wants to come here next week and for 45 minutes, you can't find time for him. And he goes, yeah, well, if, that's not going to happen and that's not realistic. And my point being that was made was you do have time. You just don't value what I bring or who I am or the message enough. It's not as important to you as the other things. There's always times. And that guy followed me on Twitter and he's seen like all the things that have come along my journey in the last 4 years. And I'll favorite some of his stuff every once in a while, just as a little wink, let you know, like you're going to be begging for me to come to your school and shoot the TV shows that I'm doing with the big people that are involved and be able to help your people. But I can't fault him for that, because at that stage in the game, maybe I wasn't big enough. Maybe I wasn't seasoned enough. Maybe I wasn't bringing enough credibility and validity. And so I've held a grudge on my shoulder a lot for people who have spited me and not believed in me or told me I couldn't do things and put that as extra fuel in the fire. And I don't think that's a bad thing. People will tell you, you don't want to do it to prove your haters wrong. You want to do it to prove your believers right. And that's great. And I'm all about that. But I'm telling you, there's nothing that motivates me more than someone that tells me I can't do something. And yes, I've gotten to places and the fulfillment comes in proving yourself right. But if there's some people along the way, and there's been a ton, and there continue to be all the time in my life that, don't take your call, or don't do this, or don't do that. It's like, okay, store that away. Just another little thing that is going to push me to be greater, to go harder, to believe in myself more, and to show you that you messed up. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's competition. And I don't blame different people, because not everyone's going to see your vision and believe in you. That's not their job. They're doing their own thing. But give me time and you're going to believe in it.
Fire.
Absolutely. So, Jesse, there's so many different questions that I want to ask you, but I wrote down actually 5 flashcards in particular. And so you just mentioned motivation, and I always say that 2 things motivate us, winning and losing. And for me, losing always motivated me more. So now my question for you is this. I heard you on a podcast recently talking about how a lot of your early motivations weren't the healthiest, and how, as quote-unquote the little guy on the basketball court, your original motives were to prove everyone wrong. And I think that's common at the beginning of any achiever's journey, which you just kind of alluded to. But you also said that you've evolved a lot since then. So my question for you is this. For our listeners, can you go into how your primary motivations have shifted since you are getting some more success and some momentum now, and how they can stay motivated in what you now believe to be a healthier, more sustainable way?
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be more sustainable in the long run. And ultimately, you're going to be happier and more fulfilled, which, Tony Robbins has a great quote, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I really love that, because I've experienced it in my own life, whether it was booking a movie and going somewhere and then experiencing the win by yourself and not having your friends or,
Right.
Your loved one in your life. It's like, well, what's the point of all the money and success and accolades if you don't have someone and a team and a family to share it with? So ultimately finding that thing. And I think it all comes back down to really finding your mission. My mission early on was to be a basketball player. That's all I cared about. I just wanted to get buckets. I wanted to, I wanted to play basketball. That's the only thing. And then eventually I had that light bulb moment and my mission became very clear. And it's like, I want to have impact, and I want to help people, and I want to use my story, and I want to do something that has never been done in the youth market. I want to take what Tony Robbins has done and do it with young people, because if we can help people who are young, then we can help them and save them a lifetime of trouble and wrong decisions and pain and hurt and hurting other people. So it really comes back to what is your mission, and become crystal clear on that. And once that became abundantly clear for me, every decision since then becomes so much easier. Everything. It's like, okay, is this pushing me? This decision, I have an opportunity that comes up. It's coming on a podcast like this. Is this podcast, getting hyper conscious with you guys, is it going to push me forward? Is it going to allow me to reach more people, to grow the brand, to develop stronger relationships, and to help people? And if it is, then it's a yes. And if it doesn't line up with those things, then it's a no. So I think those early losses and wins can help give you a little chip on your shoulder, but more importantly, hopefully they can help direct you to your mission and your purpose and the thing that's going to fulfill you. And at a certain point, it really comes down to, you want to be happy. You want to enjoy the time that you have right now. We all work and we have goals and all these things, but a lot of times right now where our feet are is the best time of our lives. And you're going to go, and when you get more money and you get more success, your life becomes, infinitely more complicated. And you can't just pick up and go to the beach on a Tuesday and go for a run. You got to be there for the business. You got to be there for the family, and you got to be there for your husband, your wife. So finding that thing that is like, okay, this is my why. This is why I get up in the morning, and this is what pushes me. It's not someone telling me, no, I'm not good enough. No, you're not smart enough. No, you don't have a big enough following. It's the more I do, the more people I can help. That's what it is for me. That's that why. So the harder I work, the earlier I get up, the more emails I put out, the more people I talk to, the more I network, the more it's going to allow me to fulfill my mission. And it's exciting. It's exciting when you see those obstacles break down. And I'll give you one example. Early on when I was in LA, I'd always loved this magazine, Slam Magazine. All the basketball, all the NBA guys would get covers. And I did that Kobe commercial, and somehow I was able to get a little article in a Slam magazine. And it was the most exciting breakthrough for me. And by having that little win, I realized, well, if I could do this, what's to keep me from going on a big news station, or booking a TV show, or a bigger commercial, or a movie, or going on the Today Show? breaking through those little things help you change your vision, and you're able to see, well, those things that I thought were not even a possibility or impossible really aren't that far off if I keep working and I keep doing the right things, as long as I keep working hard and treating people right. So that's kind of how I feel about winning and losing. It comes down to your mindset and finding that thing that's bigger than those people that are telling you that you're losing and that you can't do it, and ultimately bigger than yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you were enjoying this episode where Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with Jesse LeBeau. Again, friendly reminder, Alan and I will be speaking September 7th at the Margaritaville Resort in Hollywood Beach, Florida. We have a new addition to the lineup. Evan Carmichael is going to be speaking with us as well, and that is a dream come true. So the point of this event is for you to leave with a new outlook on life. How to actually live your dream life. If every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday you're saying, I cannot wait for Thursday and Friday to get here, this is the event for you. We want to help you change your life.
Folks, Evan Carmichael has basically accumulated and done videos. He did over 6,000 videos on YouTube where he's studied the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. Folks, you're going to get to meet him. You're going to get to meet all of us and be in this room. It will change your life. The other thing I want to say is to go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com, click on join #hyperconsciousnation. A lot of the speakers are actually in that group as well. So you can ask them questions. You can ask us questions. You can engage with each other. And there's also masterminds that are starting to happen. I think Jenna actually recently said she wants to be on one.
Yeah.
So.
I actually just heard a song the other day that said, should we get back into the episode?
I think we should.
Let's do it.
Talk soon.
Bye.
So I'm realizing very quickly why David Meltzer recommended you for our show. We talk about why power, constantly being mission-driven, how your genuine desire to serve something greater than yourself is going to create the byproducts that you actually think you desire in your day-to-day life. So Kevin and I were kind of fighting to ask you the next question. We were kind of pointing at each other and doing this whole thing. So I'm going to let him ask two after this since I'm doing two here.
Okay.
But here we go. So I began... this is basically a quote that I heard on one of your videos, and I'm going to quote it for our listeners. So, I began to hear so many tear-jerking stories from young people that it began to weigh heavy on my heart. Then it hit me. In that instant, I made a life-changing decision. I knew I would never be the same again. I found my mission, my calling in life. I was going to make a difference in the lives of young people. Now, my question for you continues here. So personally, I believe that all great things start with a new level of clarity. In that moment, you had new clarity. My life changed personally when I found my calling, which is to bring natural fitness and personal development to the masses. So my question for you is this. For our listeners, how do they find their calling? And perhaps more importantly, how will they know when they've found it?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I think that's probably one of the most popular questions that people get. It's hard to know. It's hard to know as an adult because sometimes we get caught up in life and we got bills to pay and we got people to take care of, and you get caught up in this rat race cycle, and then time goes by and you're like, well, what am I doing? This isn't what I want to be. I don't want to be working at the bank, or I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be doing that. The best thing that I can recommend and the best thing that I can say is you got to try things. You just have to get out there and try things because you don't know what you might like. And then you might try something that you think you're going to like. And then you get there and you're like, well, this isn't what I thought it was at all. So it really is just getting out there and getting a palate and tasting and trying as many things as you possibly can and seeing what you like. And how do you know? Your question to how do you know? I think it becomes pretty clear when you get something and you're excited, you wake up and you're thinking about it. Like me, I was obsessed with basketball. Mm-hmm. I woke up in the morning and that was the first thing I thought about. And I'd be shooting the ball up left-handed 100 times and then 100 times right-handed. Every little thing I could do to give me an edge. Thinking, books, videos, now to YouTube. Back then it was a little harder to get to the information, but now we have immediate access to everything, which is amazing. And so you begin to have tunnel vision for the things that you love and you're passionate about. Once that love and that light bulb moment that you talked about in that quote happened, now it's all about speaking. I literally have tunnel vision for speaking, whether it's an ad or something pops up on social media. It's like, oh, there's a conference. Why am I not speaking at that conference? Or, oh, there's a speaker. Where did he speak in the last 12 months? I'm going to hit up all those places because I know I got better marketing materials than him. If they loved him, they're going to love me. Mm-hmm. Every little thing, like I see it from a standpoint of, oh, I was in when I was in Rhode Island in your guys' neck of the woods, I met a kid, great kid, and just started chatting with him. And he created technology that allows kids to text anonymously to licensed psychiatrists and get help with the things they're going through. Because a lot of kids are a lot more comfortable texting their problems anonymously than they are going and sharing. So now they're able to radically help kids. Well, this is a perfect type of technology that I want to go and promote everywhere I go, because I want to have a bigger impact on these kids after I leave. I don't want to just be there for one day. I want them to go through my 28-week curriculum. I want them to watch all my videos on social media. I want them to watch the TV shows. And now through this, I already have a text platform that we're building, but I want them to be able to text directly with a licensed therapist who can really give them help and keep them from hurting themselves, from hurting someone else, from doing something that they can't change or take back that will ruin their lives. And so because it's that thing you get excited about. It's that thing that you're like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And when you find that, you just know, but you won't find it if you just get comfortable and keep doing the same old things. You got to try as many things. Life is so long. And I struggle with it because I want everything right now. Like I want, the big tours and the big headlining, this and that. But it's when you look at your life in a decade as opposed to a year, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And it comes back to being so committed and relentless to your vision and your mission that you don't give up when everyone else would give up. That's the only difference between me and some of these people who have tried to do some of the things that I'm doing, is that I will never give up. I will never, I know this is what I was put here to do. The gifts that I was given was, wasn't to be a basketball player. It was to use basketball to do this. And I will relentlessly never give up. And it's hard to beat someone who never gives up.
Jesse, this is absolute fire. No, and also, your level of passion, and you can tell you have a heart of gold. So I'm very grateful.
I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man. I'm grateful that we get the opportunity to share the microphone with you, because this story is amazing, but the person behind the story is more amazing. So I'm very grateful that we get to chat with you. But as usual, I usually go a little dark at some point.
Let's get dark. Let's get dark.
For me,
You're used to it up in Alaska, right?
right?
Yeah. No sunlight.
For me, if I didn't gain and cultivate confidence, none of this would be happening. So that is an internal battle that I fight almost daily. It's getting better, but it's not at the point where that's my, sometimes I resort to my old mindset. Is there anything internally that you have battled with to get where you are today? Because I don't want the listeners to get lost in your positivity. You are unbelievably positive, and I know that is practice. So is there anything that you deal with, on the day-to-day? Is there anything that you've really had to work through in regards of internal fears or doubts or anything like that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm super cynical. When I meet people, I'm always like, because I get a lot of lip service. People will tell you, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I see how people move and they use each other, and it's fake authenticity and fake relationships. And they're liking and commenting everyone's Instagram page because they want something from that person. Like, that's what even all these high level people are doing. Like, when you watch it and you see the game for what it is, it becomes abundantly clear. And so I've taken a step back, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, and I'm just like, I'm going to build this on my own, so I'm not dependent on anyone, so I never have to kiss someone's butt and play this fake, oh, I like you, and fire emojis. I'm all about being supportive of your friends and the people that are doing great things. But when you see it and someone's doing it just because they want something in return, or they're commenting on The Rock's Instagram page and double commenting so that they hope he sees it so he'll come on their podcast, it's like, to me, it's just thirsty, and maybe it's a little bit ego driven, but I see these things and I'm like, that's not how I want to move. That's not how I want to operate. I just want to be dope on my own. And people come to me because they recognize that I have something great and I bring something of value. And if you don't, and you're someone who's super famous or has super doors that I could open, but I don't like the way that you move as a person, I think it's fake and using people, then I don't have to be around you. It doesn't matter to me because I'm building it on my own. And it isn't depending on me having to go and ask people for money or an introduction or these types of things. When you do something that's truly great, people recognize that and they start coming to you. So, and then I'll go to your confidence thing, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we resonate so highly with that, man, because, again, we've had people on the show and we just can the episode because they're not who they say they are.
Yeah, marketing versus reality.
Right. I don't care if you have the results or not. I don't want to talk to you if you pretend you do.
Yeah, we live in the world of the spin, right? We live in the world of the spin. So no matter what you do, it could be good, it could be bad. people give it that spin. So like right now, you see everyone posting their perfect relationship. The people who I see posting their relationship online, I know, and a lot of people I actually know for a fact, they have the worst relationship. They're unhealthy. They're doing the wrong things. They're
Right.
all the things. It's like you're projecting something because you're trying to change the narrative of what it really is. So that's something that, and I even checked myself. All my friends were super successful on Nickelodeon shows and Disney shows, and I was going on all these trips, and I'm like, would I be friends with these people if they weren't super successful and it wasn't putting money in my pocket and taking me on trips around the world on private jets? And I stopped hanging out with all of those people. The last 2 years, I took a total hiatus. I haven't seen, and the thing is, I do love all these people. I would do anything for them. But I was like, I know that I strategically picked people who could help me in my career. And the thing is, it works. It works. That's why everyone's doing it. And I want to step back and be one of those people so that I only have to be friends with you if I genuinely enjoy the interaction and exchange of energy that we have. And I'm not saying it's the winning formula, because it's probably made some things be harder. It's probably made things take longer than they could have. But for me, it just feels better and it feels right. So I see that all the time from some of the biggest people in this niche, this self-help, personal development. It's so phony and it's so obvious, and they treat people different depending on what they can get from them. And they make their whole living on saying they don't do that. So it's become comical. And for me, I've almost had to remove them even following them, because I judge it so much. I'm wasting time, when it's like, I need to focus my time on the things that move the boat forward and are positive. And look, if they're helping people and that works for them, that's great. It just isn't my cup of tea. It's not the bed that I want to make.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of that, man. We're all about
Yeah.
being real. So that's something that we resonate super highly with. So I want to ask a quick question as my follow-up here. Something that I read or I listened to one of your things on your Instagram. You said something that's lacking today for children is mentors. What do you think makes a good mentor, and why do you think children are not able to find them? Is it the parents, or like, what is that deal? What's going on with that, do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's the times have changed with technology, and the big factor is the phone. The big factor is the phone. But real quick, I realized I didn't answer your other question, the confidence thing.
Sure.
The best way to get confidence, I think you nailed it on the head, is it's literally, it's a mental thing, right? So, example, I senior year, I was having a good year basketball wise. And I remember I went out on the court, and before the game, I thought in my head, I said, I was thinking as I walked out, you are the baddest mother player on this court right now. You're the best player. There's no one can touch you. You're the best player. Went out, killed in the game, dominated the game. I don't usually score a lot of points. I'm more of a passer, but I had, a lot of points, a lot of, did an amazing game, played at the top of my game. The next game, we were playing a team that was known to have a really good little point guard that I was going to have to match up with. I went out on that game a week later, the same amount of ability, the same quickness, the same strength, the same, all talent across the board. And I played awful, but it was all because I was intimidated and I was in my head about this player who was supposed to be the top player, one of the top players in the country. So it really comes down to how you perceive yourself. And the best way to give yourself confidence, and why I always had so much confidence in basketball, was because I put in the work.
Right.
And if you know, because you can fool other people, right? We're talking about faking it till you make it. And you can fool other people. But at the end of the day, when you look yourself in the mirror, if you did the reps, if you did your push-ups, if you did those 2 a days, or you stayed after and did the work that other people weren't willing to do. And if you did do it, it gives you such supreme confidence, because you did the thing that no one else did at a higher level, and you got the most reps in. So I think when it comes to confidence, it really comes into putting the work, because there are people that have false confidence and think that they're the greatest and they should do all these things, but they didn't earn it. And when you earned it, there's something different that comes through in the way you carry yourself and the way you interact with people.
Absolutely. So good. So good. I know that Kevin had a different question after that.
Can we just go into we can make it quick so Alan can get his question, but mentors, what's up with why are kids lacking mentors today?
I think the family unit is broken. It's easier to get divorced. 1 and 2 are getting divorced these days. I think it's like 70% second marriages end in divorced. So the family unit and the family structure isn't there. And then with our phones and access to technology, kids are plugged in to that, and they're having less communication with the people in their life, whether it's their peers or the adults at their schools, their community centers, in the home. So it's a fundamental breakdown that way. And it's a tough thing because that's one of the most influential positive influences in kids' lives, is having a consistent. There's Harvard studies that show having the number one thing that helps kids is having a consistent role model, mentor, parent, someone, older brother, camp counselor that's consistently in their lives. So that's kind of the breakdown. And then from who can be a mentor, really anyone could be a mentor. And it's great if you're an awesome person doing awesome things. But the biggest thing is giving time and taking interest in a kid's life. So it's finding out what they like to do. They're into baseball. Go throw the baseball around with them. They like, vampire movies. Go watch a stupid teen vampire movie with them. That's how you build trust, is you put in time with them, doing the things that they like doing, camping trips, fishing trips, whatever it is. And by giving that time, that builds the trust, and then they're open to listening to you, but also sharing with you what they're dealing with and going on. So, mentorship is huge.
I'm so glad Kevin asked that question. I had a flashcard on that as well. One of the things that keeps jumping off the page for you, Jesse, is mastery. So I often tell people that the results they think they want are actually a byproduct of mastery. So for you, whether it was basketball, speaking, being a mentor to these kids, like you kept mentioning 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours. Like for me, every public success, as you know, a Tony Robbins quote, is actually the result of 10,000 things no one ever saw in private. What are you practicing in private? Like those Friday nights you talk about when everyone else was out drinking and you were, playing basketball. That's why if you jump on a court with me, you're going to crush me because you put in those hours that I didn't. And then your confidence is actually real and not fake confidence as well. So how do we convince people? Please sell mastery to everyone listening.
Yeah. I don't know if you can sell it. I think you have to have that inner dog in you. You have to want something so bad, and no one else can do that for you. And that's the big thing I see as my competitive advantage to people in this industry, is I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to, there's certain things from a business standpoint of like, I have a standard of like, this is how many emails are going out to generate leads. This is what we're doing for marketing. These are the people that I'm going to go meet with no matter what it takes for me to get in front of them. So it's finding those things that you're committed to, and it's really in that discipline. And that's the big problem. It's so easy to sit on social media and watch 100 Gary V Instagram videos and
Right.
David Meltzer videos and Tony Robbins, E.T. the hip hop preacher, you name the person. They're putting out great content. It's awesome. I love it.
Right.
But while you're going and watching those videos and getting that inspiration and thinking you need one more video that's going to tell you what the secret trick is, the 5 tricks to maybe a millionaire. Grant Cardone's the funny, hilarious one to me. These guys, it's like, no offense, he's killing it. He's making all the money and he's using that money to basically buy celebrity. That's what he really wants. It's very obvious. Like if you wanted to help people, then just do it for free. You already got 100 million, but it's a business, and I don't fault him for that. If people want to do it, but while people are out watching all those videos and doing all those things, I'm out doing it. Go waste your time. Go waste your time watching those videos about taking action, about doing those things. I'm going to be actually out taking action and actually doing the things and doing the push-ups and putting in the work. That's the difference. It's the people who go for it. And like, look, there's no set formula, set path, these are the steps that you need to do. Everyone's path is different, and it's a beautiful thing. But if you want it, you're going to figure it out on your own. I don't need those people to tell me what to do because I'm going to learn. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to take the action. And maybe it's not the right, perfect one, but I'm going to stumble forward and I'm going to be 3 steps further than when I started. And then I'm going to figure it out some more and I'm going to stumble some more. And I'm just going to keep moving further and further towards that endpoint and figure it out because I want it. So yeah, if you want it, master your craft. Become, for me, as a speaker, oh, I go to comedy 3 nights a week in LA. They're the best comedians in the world. And it's hilarious and it's fun. But if you think I'm not there taking notes and saying, how does this guy, bounce back from an awkward situation with someone who's heckling them? Or how do they get out of a hole when a joke tanks? Or how do they come in and immediately capture the audience's attention? I'm learning all that so I can apply it to what I do. Because all I really am is a stand-up comedian with a message behind it. You know? So it's finding those things. How do you continually grow? But then how do you not get so, I think it's easy, and a mistake a lot of people make today is getting so caught up in personal development and inspiration and motivation. Great. But guess what? While you're doing that, I just did 100 push-ups and I got stronger. And I'm going to have the advantage on you because I went out and I knocked on 100 doors while you were reading a book about knocking on doors. You know what I mean? So it's really, mastery is important, but the key to mastery is getting out and mastering it. And only you can have that inner drive. And it's so easy to sit back and watch other people and compare yourself. Like, I know you got some more questions, so I'll leave it there, but I might go off on the next one.
No worries, man. So we got 9 minutes left. So Alan and I always ask, every guest we have on, we have 2 questions that we like to ask because they're very personal to us. So you have had one hell of a journey thus far, and honestly, your journey of this part of it, speaking, traveling, authoring, inspiring, influencing, that's just getting started. So, say you have another 90 years on this planet. What do you hope to accomplish in your time here? Like, what do you want to accomplish before you die?
Yeah, I love it. 90 years, I'll take them. With advances in modern science, I don't see why not.
I'll
man.
Take
all 90. That's great. For me, it's really coming back down to that mission that I told you guys about. And I want to create an entire empire of impact. An empire of impact and income that I can leave a legacy behind, that after I'm gone, these videos, these TV shows, these books, the nonprofit, all of these things are running on their own apart from me. And I'm able to continually influence people and help folks that don't have that in their lives. So for me, it's kind of there's a few things. I feel like building a Tony Robbins type business in the teen market is a little bit different in today's world. So instead of doing big seminars the way that Tony does, for me, it's going into schools, getting grants involved. It's building partnerships with the Boys and Girls Club that implements our curriculum and is with the kids outside of school time in the after school hours when most of the issues start. It's these TV shows that can live forever and show us helping people and show how to overcome eating disorders, bullying. The self-harm is a big one, the depression, the suicide. How do we and change the stigma on mental health in our country? And that's a really big one. So for me, it's just creating this empire brick by brick. That's really a full smorgasbord, if you will, of helping kids that are and eventually adults that are struggling in any different area of their life, of having a resource, and more importantly, because they can get the resources, it's about getting them excited about it. That's why I do the basketball tricks. That's why I show the pictures and tell the stories of Allen Iverson and Chris Brown and Kevin Durant and The Rock and all these things, because I've given them what they want, so now they buy in, so then I can give them what they need. I'm saying the same thing their parent or their coach or their teacher is saying to them, but they're listening to it from me because I did a basketball trick or I did a movie with someone they know, or I did something to get them excited. It's the same message, just a different messenger. So for me, it's just growing this thing into an absolute monster. And it's been amazing to see where it's come in about 4 or 5 years. But really the most exciting time is now, when I'm trying to sell these shows and they're telling me, no, you can't. No, you're not big enough. No, you're not famous enough. No, you don't have enough followers. No, people don't want to watch shows that help people. They want to watch shows that are like the Keeping Up with the Kardashians and the Jersey Shore.
Oh,
yeah.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So I hear no, and then all of a sudden I get a breakthrough. Then I get Mark Wahlberg on board to do a show with me, and it's like, see, you didn't know what you were talking about. I do know what's out there and what people want, and this is ultimately going to be, hugely successful and have an amazing impact. So as cool as the ride's been, that right now is the most underdog I've ever been, I feel like, and it's the most inspiring because it's fun when your back is up against the wall and to be facing a challenge. If everything was easy, you'd have no incentive to build and create anything great.
Right. As Tom Hanks once said, It's not supposed to be easy. It's hard, and it's the hard that makes it great. Jesse, my favorite part about you is that you will not accept failure. You always use stumble forward. We use fail forward. I say this to myself every day. No one will outfail me. Every failure is a report card.
That's great.
And I'm going to get better every time. No one will outfail me. I'll never forget. This will be quick. Michael Jordan, per time on the court, actually missed more shots than almost any other basketball player. When I found that out, Jesse, I knew it makes perfect sense now, because every single time he shot, that's how he dialed his shot in, take more chances. It's huge. So I'm going to go off my normal question here real quick, because I really, really love what you do, especially with kids. So there's a couple quotes I'm going to quote from one of the videos I watched of you. Number one is, I was overlooked and underestimated my entire life, just like them. I had big goals and dreams that I was chasing just like them. You're referring to kids. Now, I've personally often said that it's not just about having ambition, it's what having ambition will make of you. That's huge. My question for you is this. Do you find that most kids do have big dreams? And if so, why do you believe so many adults don't? And how can we convince people that most of what they really want is actually a byproduct of something far bigger, aka having a clear, specific dream?
Fire question.
Wow, that's a good one. I think most kids do. Most kids do have a big dream. And I think adults pressure them out of it because, and a lot of times from the kid perspective, they're afraid to be judged. That's the biggest thing. Kids are worried, and adults, as adults, we're all worried too much about what other people think about us. That's the big problem. And then parents and adults, a lot of times, especially when they love a kid, they don't want them to see them get hurt or fail. And so when a kid has this big unrealistic dream, they kind of, well, that's not for everyone. And, it's a little bit unrealistic. And have you thought about maybe just trying something smaller? They have good intentions, but a lot of times their advice can be the worst advice. And so if you're an adult and you have a young person in your life, encourage them to go for that crazy dream. Encourage them to chase it, go for it, to, as you say, fail forward, stumble forward. Because you can learn so much in that process. And a lot of times you can ultimately find a bigger and better dream than you initially started with. So
good.
Not being afraid to tweak your dream is a beautiful thing. I wanted to be an NBA player. It didn't work out. Not big enough, fast enough, strong enough, all those things. But I found something I probably enjoy more than that grueling schedule of being in the NBA. And I get to do what I love to do. And it's still involving the passion of basketball, but it's just a little bit tweaked.
And if you didn't have that dream to be in the NBA, there's no possibility you'd be on this call right now. That is why we do what we do, Jesse. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
This has definitely been one of every time we get on here, like when the call ends, I'm like, this is, I think, maybe my favorite one thus far. Your passion and your purpose, all of that comes right through. And honestly, we are unbelievably grateful to be able to chat with you. I want to make sure, though, you survived the Hyperconscious Gauntlet. Is there anything that you have coming out, books, TV shows, podcasts, anything? Plug away. Let the listeners know where they can find you, learn about you, and get to know you better.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I have a lot of stuff going on. Probably I'm easy to find online. It's just my name, Jesse LeBeau. JesseLeBeau.com, Jesse LeBeau on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. If people want to get involved with our work, we have a website for our nonprofit, attitudeeseverythingfoundation.org. Reach out, and we're always looking to get to more schools to have a bigger reach, have a bigger influence, and I'm always posting where we're at and the stuff updates with the TV shows and the podcast and that kind of thing. So if people want to get involved, they can find us online.
I love it.
Next time you're in the area, Brian, be sure to let us know.
Yeah,
we'll do
man.
a round 2 in person.
We'll do a round 2. We'll go to the gym, and then I will watch you and Alan play basketball because I'm 5'5", man. So and I don't have the talent either. So
I'm posting you up.
You and Alan can go at it. I'll record.
Sounds
I'm
good.
in.
Sounds
I'm
good.
in.
So if
sounds great.
Is there like a 10-second blip you can leave the listeners with? Something motivational, something inspirational, something that you live by that they can take.
Here we go. 10 seconds of inspiration. The biggest thing you can figure out in your life is how to master your attitude. We can't control what happens to us, but we can always control how we respond. And if you can master that, speaking of mastery, if you can master your attitude, you're going to live a happier and more successful life. But at the end of the day, nothing matters unless you take action. Don't be scared to take action.
I love
That's
it, man.
it.
That was a great. That was a
was
great
really,
10
really
seconds.
good. I'm sorry I interrupted the last part. I feel
I
bad.
know. I'm bad.
Damn it, man.
I went 12 and a half.
I thought
That's
for
all
sure
right.
you were done. That's
All
my
right,
bad.
we'll
All right.
let you get out of here. It's 4 on the button our time. Dude, we appreciate you so much, and we cannot wait to definitely meet you in person for a round 2. We're setting that intention now, but collaborate in the future. Our messages are so congruent, man, and honestly, I am blown away by you, and this was truly a pleasure, Jesse.
Appreciate it, guys. A lot of fun.
Thank you
Definitely
so
round
much.
2.
All right.
All right.
Talk soon.
Take care.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode where Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with the amazing Jesse LeBeau. As I mentioned in the intro, he has an unbelievable level of self-belief. And after this episode, we are doing a 5-minute clinic on that word, belief.
I was recently talking to a group of athletes in a speech at Medway High School, and I told them right at the beginning, my goal today is to tell you what I wish I knew in high school, and that is to believe in your dreams even more. That is my goal for you as well on this 5-minute clinic. Do not miss it.
We believe in you. Therefore, you can believe in yourself. We think you are capable of achieving whatever it is you want, so we want to help you do that. And we hope you will enjoy that episode.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.